It's 24 degrees here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, it's a little warmer in Lagos at 27 degrees, and the highest anticipated is 29 degrees, even though currently 27 degrees feels like 32. Amaya Makinde, welcome to the show.
Well, if it's any comfort, I understand our 24 degrees Celsius feels like 27 degrees. But I think it's still cool, you know, compared with the weather in Lagos. And I don't think that the people in Abuja are complaining. I think the only thing you'll be asking is, where are the rains? Because almost every morning we see the clouds, but we don't see the rains. Anyways, I guess that works for some people, and maybe for some other people, they're waiting patiently that the rains will eventually fall. But quite a number of things to look at this morning, because conversations are still happening right here in the FCT with regards to current situation in the country, the challenges that Nigeria faces, especially with regards to many of her population. Just yesterday, one of such conversations held at the National Defense College, where the issue of hunger and poverty took forefront as matters now driving insecurity. I think this has now been, this has been known for a very long time, that hunger and poverty are drivers of insecurity. But when they now become matters of national discussion, coming from quarters as high as that of the Chief of Defense Staff and also that of the NSA's office, then we expect that they should be getting very good attention by those in authority. That if we're not able to stem these issues, these two critical issues of hunger, we've not even entered the issue of education, infrastructure, but tackling hunger and poverty, then we might be going nowhere with actually dealing with insecurity. I don't know if you saw that conversation yesterday, Ayo.
Touching. Very, 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 very touching. Well, it's not the first time the military is letting us know that, look, this whole idea of insecurity has its deep roots in hunger and poverty. And if you date back to, I conducted a research in 2015 to prepare a report for the first anniversary of the kidnap of the Chibok girls. And what we found out was the same. As far back as 2015, hunger and poverty were the driving forces. In fact, a few of the people that were spoken with at the time said that, look, they were lured into, banditry, into insecurity, into insurgency, whatever you want to call it, with money and with food and whatever it is that they were anticipating and angling for before that opportunity came. So yes, Malkwe, that it came center stage at no less a place than the National Defense College, with speeches made by no less a person, as you said, than the Chief of Defense Staff, as well as the National Security Advisor. One wonders the kind of advice that is going to go to the president from that, but it's a good opportunity for us to take a look at that report.
At the instance of the Alumni Association of the National Defense College, security experts converged for another brainstorming session on ways to combat the nation's security challenges. The conversation begins as participants underscore the need for sustained investment in education, economic empowerment, and social inclusion as critical non-kinetic responses to Nigeria's efforts at combating insecurity.
Chief Obafemi Awolowo of blessed memory, a prominent statesman, did emphasize that the children of the poor you failed to train will never let your children have peace. The same goes for hunger and poverty. Indeed, hunger and poverty renders a population vulnerable to negative vices and subversion by hostile organizations, with the attendant negative impact on national security.
The drivers of insecurity are identified and possible solutions proffered.
Insecurity is no longer defined solely by the presence of arms and ammunition, but is now also rooted in economic deprivation, food insecurity, social dislocation. Indeed, empowering the youth, enhancing livelihood, promoting tolerance, and encouraging private investment are critical blocks in constructing a secure and resilient nation.
The theme of this year's seminar, Combating Hunger and Poverty for Sustainable Peace and Development in Nigeria, gives us the platform to examine an existential challenge that remains a catalyst for several security challenges in our dear nation.
On his part, the Minister of Defense advocates the need for human-centered security approaches capable of addressing the root causes of insecurity, including unemployment, poverty, and social exclusion.
The emphasis of this year's seminar on critical human security issues such as hunger and poverty aligns with the President's commitment to improving the lives of vulnerable Nigerians. His intervention through support for agricultural initiative, youth vocational training, and provision of essential social services have directly impacted countless lives and contribute meaningfully to grassroots peace building.
The seminar with the theme Combating Hunger and Poverty for Sustainable Peace and Development in Nigeria was organized in collaboration with the Office of the National Security Advisor and National Defense College.
Well, the Chief of Defense Training in that report represented the Chief of Defense Staff, according to what it all went to, how it all went down. And if you listen to the Minister of Defense there, one of the things that he said that we should focus on human-centric security, human-centered security. I remember in 2019, there was a report put out that the national security strategy should now be more human-focused than state-focused. So I'm wondering at what point, if ever, that policy was changed. If it was changed, okay, so what has it been changed to? Has anything really changed at this time? Now, the things that are happening in, at least from this report, it shows us that we don't need any further intelligence anywhere. This is intelligence, right, Malkwe? This is the intelligence that we need. So, and it is actionable intelligence. The question is, who is going to act on this actionable intelligence that didn't just come as a secret, but came directly, even on national TV?
Well, big questions, Ayo. What I'm really happy about is that this directly ties into our conversation this morning. Because if we're looking at human security, we're not just looking at, yes, we're dealing with hunger, which is, a very primary thing that we need to deal with. But then there's also poverty, which can only be eradicated through education and meaningful engagement with the state. And that directly ties into our conversation this morning, which we'll be having with a very strong advocate. I mean, as a matter of fact, he's lived all his life, dedicated his life to it. And we'll be revealing who our guest will be in just a very brief moment. We'll take a break right now. We'll be back shortly for the conversation of the day. Please stay with us. Well, while Nigeria continues to answer questions around how it's going to deal with hunger and poverty, we also know that we have a huge number of children who are out of school. At the latest count, we understand about 10.5 million children are out of school. And out of this particular number, 7.6 million of them are girls. Well, there's somebody who has been raising his voice as a standard. His daughter nearly paid the supreme price for this, but thankfully she survived and has now also raised her voice. But this was all thanks to the support that she got from her father and her family. This morning we're joined by Ziauddin Yusufzai, who is the co-founder and board member of the Malala Fund. He is the father of Malala Yousafzai, who nearly lost her life owing to gunshot to the head sometime in 2009. Well, thankfully, she survived that, and she has now raised her voice. She's now a known advocate around the world for the education of girl children. She's paid several visits to Nigeria, but also her father, who understands the role that men can play in this battle and in this advocacy, was recently in Nigeria. And today on Sunrise Daily, he joins us to share his insights into some of the things that he has learned and how he believes that men, especially Nigerian men, can help bring down this huge number of 7.6 million girls who are currently out of school. Mr. Yusuf Zai, it's good to have you on Sunrise Daily. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Mope. Thank you so much for having me on Sunrise Daily. Thank you so much.
Well, I do not know whether to begin with an apology. I had hoped to meet you sometime last week when you were in the country, but sadly that did not happen. But I know that you have a lot to share with us in terms of your reflections on your visits to Nigeria. What would you say, stood out for you when you came to Nigeria? Is it your first visit ever?
Thank you so much, Mope. It was my fourth because we have been to Nigeria 3 times before this. And I must say that when it comes to Malala Fund's work, in my own work, Nigeria is one of the most important countries where we have been working for the last 10 years. We came to Nigeria in 2014 to meet the Chibok girls. Then we came in 2017 and we went to Maiduguri, Borno State, and also Malala marked the 10th anniversary of her UN speech with Amina Muhammad in 2023. So this was my 4th time, and this time I was there especially for girls' education and to involve men and boys in this work for girls' education. And as I heard from you and your co-host about the national security, that should be human-centric. So I must say that when we talk about human-centric, it should be education-centric. And as you mentioned, 6.7 million girls out of school. This is a huge number of girls in the nation. But in my meetings with the traditional leaders, faith leaders, civil society organizations, media, and so many other people, really, the community is robust. So if on the one hand, there is a huge population of girls that is out of school, I see so many committed people in men leaders in civil society who really can turn this big problem into a great opportunity.
It was really a pleasure to have met your daughter in 2023 and to have interviewed with her on her last visit to Nigeria. And I know that, she spoke very highly of the support that she got from you. I'm just a little curious, what have you found have been the obstacle between, Nigerian men really advocating and really trying to turn the tide against, girls not getting an education in the parts of the country that you visited?
Basically, like when it comes to girls' rights and girls' education, I always mention this, that when a baby girl first meets manhood, that is her father. And if he believes in her freedom, then no power on earth can enslave her spirit. And if he believes in her potential and in her ability, she will never doubt her worth. So that is like being a father who supported his daughter. That is one thing that I can share, and I can find common in Pakistan and in Nigeria, where in both countries, there are millions of girls who are not in school, and especially there are 5 million girls in Nigeria, like secondary school girls who are not in school. And you will also know, and you may know better than me, that only 67% of girls, they complete their junior secondary school, and 51% girls in Nigeria, they complete their senior secondary school. But a big factor of that hindrance is early child marriages. Like nationally, 1/3 of the Nigerian girls are married by 18, when they are 18, before 18. And in the Northeast and in the Northwest, more than half of the girls are married by 18. So this is a big loss, because when girls are married at that age, that is the end of their education. And we lose great nurses, doctors, teachers who can contribute to their communities. So, and also it is World Bank data that if all girls in Nigeria get secondary education, the nation can earn more than $100 billion. And then look at its impact on health, impact on rights, impact on climate. So everything changes. When a girl gets education, she not only changes her own world, but she changes the world for everyone. So my focus especially was on men involvement, that we need that, because gender equality needs men, and men needs gender equality. So that's why I see these things common in Nigeria and Pakistan, but I'm so hopeful, because when I went to Sokoto and I met His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto. So during his conversation, and he is a great champion of girls' education, he is emphasizing on the payments to teachers, infrastructure for education, and right from there, like I also met, I hosted a round table where I met other faith leaders, like I should mention Reverend John Joseph, who is leading the Christian Association Nigeria. I met Amina Haruna, who is from Ministry of Education. And right to the bottom, I met a girl. Her name was Halima Yusuf. And like when she told her story, it was so inspiring that she was in a family of boys. But her father was the man who stood behind her, and he protected her, supported her from all kind of bullies, pressures. And now that girl is working for Paged Initiative. That is a great organization which is working for girls' education and women's rights. So like the potential we see, the resilience I see in this country is huge, and we can change this problem, this challenge, into a big opportunity for everyone.
But cultural practices are sometimes very difficult to change. You have identified early child marriage as one of the things that militating against, girls getting a full education. And I know that, part of the advocacy that the Malala Fund has been pushing is that, girls get at least 12 years compulsory and free education. What do you think? How do you think that cultural practices can be adjusted? Because some people say this is what we've done all our lives. This is what we know. And changing it is going to be very difficult. They do not still see the value in educating their girls. How do you think that these practices, if not totally eradicated, maybe can work hand in hand in education, or at least can be stemmed somewhat?
Yeah, this is so important, because when it comes to girls' education, cultural norms, social norms are there. And when I share my own story, my 5 sisters did not go to school because of the social norms, but I changed myself because of the education, and I was able to send my daughter to school. So that made a huge change in our lives. So that's why that is the important thing, that we need to involve men and boys, because I just give one example always, that if there is a family of 5 sisters and 1 brother, And that one brother goes and he goes to other countries to earn money for the whole family. And the 5 sisters, they are, because of social norms, they are stopped from going out of their home when they are teen. They don't get education, they can't work. Then these 5 sisters depend on one brother. So the brother, because of social norm, not only ruins his life, he also destroys the lives of his 5 sisters. So that is like very simple, but we need to have this conversation with empathy and understanding, because these norms and taboos, they sit and they are entrenched in our behavior for generations. As I mentioned, that when I stood against this, the patriarchy, the first person I came across was myself. So with negotiation, with conversation, when we involve men and boys, I mean, everything changed. And it doesn't only change for girls only, it changed for men and boys as well. Like when I think of my life, that I have never been here where I am, not even now, but before I take on my daughter, if I had not encouraged my wife to be part of my life and my daughter to be educated. So when girls get education, it changes things for everyone. We need to understand this simple fact. And as Malala says, that the cultures are always like formed and developed by human beings, and human beings should have a right to change them. So it's so simple. It's time that we need to change all those social harmful norms that hinder girls from their basic human rights and girls from growing, thriving. We should come together and we should change them, not only for them, but for everyone, for our girls, for our communities, and for our nations. That's how we will move forward. And I always give an example that a man and a woman, we are like 2 wheels of a cart. And if one wheel is jammed, then the other wheel can't move swiftly. That's it. It's so simple. But we just need to reflect and involve in this conversation. And also, every man, like whether that man is a father or brother, or that man is a leading an organization or a government department, every man in their role can have a role to support women and girls. So I call in every man. And also I should mention that we are not like outsiders. We are the stakeholders. It affects us. So we need to come out of it, and we need to be considerate, kind, compassionate men and human beings.
Well, Mr. Yousafzai, you definitely have done this for quite a bit, and perhaps one of the challenges, maybe some men might have in certain cultures, as Malkwe highlighted, because it's a cultural thing in most cases. I don't know if you can share a specific story or moment from your advocacy efforts that underscores the transformative role that fathers play in advancing gender equality in education. Gender equality in education.
You mean men's role?
Yes. If you have a specific story or a moment from your advocacy efforts that underscores the transformative role that fathers play in that gender equality in education space.
Yeah, there are many stories, like my own story, and I mentioned the story of Halima before, and also the work we do in Nigeria. Like, I will give you that we don't have much time, but I give you just 2-3 examples. And one of the story is about the Youth of Africa. And this is an organization that, together with Central for Girls Education in Edo State, they were able to pass the Child Rights Act, and it had a ripple effect. And then that Child Rights Act was passed in every state of Nigeria. Also, because of their advocacy, the hidden fees in schools was eliminated, and it benefited 800,000 children in Edo State. There is another organization, and its name is Center for advocacy and transparency, and they supported the government in developing a comprehensive education policy, which was gender sensitive. And lastly, I should mention that in Kano State, the Bridge Connect Africa, there is another organization which is Malala Fund Education Champion, and they developed and implemented gender responsive budget, and also they were able to with their support and advocacy, government reopened 15 boarding schools for girls. So these are some stories of our work that I can share with you. But when it comes particularly to fathers, I think there are so many amazing fathers who have supported their daughters. And if you ask every second girl, successful girl, a successful woman in media, in legal fraternity, in politics, wherever, in health, every second girl, or every girl almost, she will say, yes, I had a supportive father in my life. So,
absolutely.
That is so important.
Yes, absolutely. But let's go to the future, Mr. Yusufzai, because the boys today are the fathers tomorrow. So what role do you see young men and boys play in the fight for gender equality in education? How can they be empowered to contribute meaningfully to gender equality in education?
Thank you so much. This is so important. And I'm a father of 2 sons. And I'm so proud that I have raised not only a daughter, but I have raised 2 sons who are supportive of gender equality and women's rights. So this is so important. As you mentioned that today's sons are tomorrow's fathers. And what we need to do, basically, we need to do very important things through curriculum and through engaging boys at very early age, that they have this value, and we inculcate this value of gender equality, respect. Like I always tell that one is macho masculinity, and one is a masculinity that is healthy, that is compassionate, that believes in kindness and respect for everyone. So if we, at the early age in boys, if we inculcate these values in our boys, I think they will be different men. They will be different father. When I'm asked what changed me in my life, I always tell one thing: education, education, and education. Education changed me into the kind of person that I became. It gave me the values, the value of empathy, respect, equality, and respecting the otherness of other people. So that is so important. So this is how we can involve boys, and also to tell the boys that it's not only like supporting girls is helpful for girls. It's also important for boys' own lives to grow and thrive and to succeed.
Okay, so if just one last question from me: if you could implement or propose one transformative policy, right, in Nigeria today to advance girls' education, what would it be? What would that policy be, and why?
I think if we push, because Malala Fund is working on securing the rights for girls' education and also investment in girls' education. If I say in short, I think it should be like number one. Nigeria is a great nation. So the first and most important thing is that policies that if they are at federal level or state level, we should push for the policies and introduce policies that ensure every girl's right to free, safe, and quality education. And the implementation of the policy is so important. That is one. And number two, as you said in the beginning of this conversation, that like national security should be human-centric. And I add to it that when we say human-centric, education is the foundation of that. So Nigerian government, whether that is federal government or state governments, they should invest on education and should be gender response, gender responsive, because in many states, like the demand or the requirement of girls' education is ignored because just a whiteboard, a blackboard, and a classroom and a teacher, that doesn't work. For quality education, girls need health hygiene, they need clean water, and so many other requirements. So, to be short, number one, policies, and number two, investment. Investment that we are able, the Nigerian government is able to send all those 6.7 million girls to school, and they get free, safe, and quality education.
Mr. Yusufzai, I'm just a little curious. You know, security, yes, we've spoken about human security, but some people, and you have lived firsthand this particular experience, that some people actually go to school, as girls go to school under the very threat of their lives. Your daughter experienced this firsthand, and I know that, I don't know what the experience would have been for you as a father, those who understood the circumstances prevailing when you raised your voice in advocacy, in silent protest, that you were not going to back down on letting your daughter go to school. So many communities in Nigeria are still facing this particular challenge, and we've seen it happen with the kidnap of the Chibok girls in 2014. We saw it with the girls in Yobe, and one of them is still in captivity as we speak, all because she went to school. So for you, how would you speak to parents who, want their children to go to school, but are still very uncertain? They're still not sure about the environment, and they'd rather keep their children at home as a result of some of the traumatic events they've seen happen to other children and other parents who have sent their children to school.
Thank you, Mopa, for this question. And honestly, when we talk about safety and security of girls, that is the most important thing that we need to focus on. I have been, my family and myself, my wife, Torpik, and we all have been gone through this trauma. When Taliban bombed more than 400 schools in Swat Valley and they attacked my daughter to silence her forever, what happened in Borno State and the state you mentioned, UB now, it's really alarming and heartbreaking that our girls are not safe while going to school or in school. I think a parent's responsibility is to make sure that they are safe. I mean, if it's very difficult for a parent to decide to send their daughter to school while they feel, oh, she might be kidnapped on the way to school or from school. So parents must be mindful of it, but I believe that it is government responsibility, state responsibility to make sure, I mean, this is the most important basic thing of a state to protect the lives of their people, and especially children. Schools should be a safe, they say schools should be safe havens. They should not be places where children are attacked or they are kidnapped from. So I think that parents should always prioritize their demand and their ask to the government to make sure that every girl should have an access to free, safe, and quality education.
Well, we have to thank you very much for joining us this morning on Sunrise Daily, and also for the work you're doing in advocacy. I mean, you could easily have kept quiet after all of this, but you have decided to raise your voice in advocacy for girl-child education. Thank you so much for the work you're doing, as well as the work that Malala Yousafzai is doing as well. It's been a pleasure speaking with you this morning, Mr. Ziauddin Yousafzai, co-founder.
Thank you, and Ayo, for having me. Thank you so much.
Indeed.
My pleasure.
We've been speaking with the co-founder and board member of the Malala Fund, Ziauddin Yousafzai, who also is Malala Yousafzai's father. Thank you once more. We take a break and we'll be back shortly to look at another matter happening locally. Well, all of the matters are happening locally, but this time around is a little more regional. Please stay with us.
Our next conversation, as you can see, is about the southeast of Nigeria, particularly in the area of security and development, as well as, you know, what some would say permutations towards 2027. Is it a little too early, or is it just the right time in politics? As you have seen in the welcoming slide, Mr. Valentine Okikeozo joins us this morning. He is Commissioner for Special Duties and Diaspora in Ebonyi State. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you, sir.
The first thing, most times when people hear about the Southeast, the unfortunate sit-at-home thing is one of those things that's top of mind. What's the scenario now? The number of people are saying, okay, maybe it has abated, maybe it's still continuing. What can you tell us about the latest?
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. Southeast is good. Southeast is very good, and it's not the same way people talk about it, I can assure you. Even though I know that security challenges are everywhere, it's not only in Southeast, but I can tell you that the sit-at-home syndrome is no longer the way it was. So it has abated very, very well, and there's peace. And I can tell you in Ebonyi State in particular, where I come from, we've not actually witnessed a sit-at-home. It has been just normal day like every other day in Ebonyi State. So I think we are good, sir.
But at the end of the day, he who feels it knows it. What was done? What would you say has been done in order for us to be sure that it's not just over, but it's permanently over and never coming back? Are you saying that throughout the Southeast, there is no sit-at-home anywhere?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would talk based on the state where I come from, Ebonyi in particular. So I cannot say that there are no challenges of security in the Southeast. Of course, it's everywhere, like I said earlier. It's not only in the Southeast. But I believe that with God, everything is possible, believing that our security agencies are doing quite well, and with the support of government, they will do much better.
All right, so in terms of security and development in the Southeast, what would you say? One of the things that normally come to me is whether or not, and the question has been asked quite a few times, whether or not all of the governors in the Southeast are as cooperative as one would expect. Yes, I know you are commissioner for in Ebonyi State, but you are a commissioner in Ebonyi State, but I mean, you should at least be able to say a thing or two about, you know, the activities of your governor and whether or not they are collaborating enough for the people to ensure sustainable security and development.
Oh, sure. The situation, like I said, is better now, and we also know that in a chaotic society, meaningful development cannot happen. So it's only when we have a conducive atmosphere that development can spring up. So I believe also that the governors of the Southeast are doing quite well. Enugu and Ebonyi, we share boundary, and I traveled to Enugu on my way to Lagos, and the journey was smooth. People travel from Ebonyi to Onitsha in Anambra State. There has not been any record of people being kidnapped or people who, hindered from traveling. So I think the situation is better now, and that is because the governors are collaborating very well, and I believe that it will continue to be better.
So what are some of the critical, in your opinion, critical developmental issues that Ebonyi must take on in order for it to gain its status, in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. We have been able to achieve what we have achieved in the state under the governor of Ebonyi State, Right Honorable Builder Francis Obonina-Nwifuru, because he believes that we can have meaningful development when there's peace. Of course, we may have heard in the past that we had communal clashes, Ishelu local government and Ohuku local government, and other parts of Ebonyi. And these clashes almost defied solution in the past years. So, but when he came on board, with the grace of God, he was able to stop everything in totality. As I speak with you, Ezilo, people live in harmony, And all the things they lost during the clashes, the governor has been able to assist them, build 140 units of 3 bungalow apartments, which we are currently doing, and the job is at 97% completion, apart from the internal road that the Ministry of Work is handling right now. So we have been able to navigate our path very well because of the man that is at the helm of affairs. So I can tell you for sure that the development we have in Ebonyi, it's quite enormous, and time will not even allow me to be able to. But I'm going to say a few things about them. In the area of education, we know education is the bedrock of society. For any development to happen, you must have solid education. Before he came on board, we had a bastardized system that was not functioning well. For instance, in our tertiary education, Edo State University was almost gone. But when he came, he was able to remove the embargo on employment. He converted those who were due for conversion, increased their salaries of academic and non-academic staff. He increased the subvention of Ebonyi University. He did internal road for the school. He put street lights. He employed every first-class students of Ebonyi origin anywhere in Nigeria. He gave scholarship of 300 students currently in UK, every payment made, and 700 of the same scholarship to other Ebonians, but that one is in Nigeria, any university, any choice of their institution in Nigeria. He has provided buses for easy transportation to school, and so many things he has been able to do. In the area of health, before he came on board, a lot of doctors left the state because of the peanut they got as salary. And then doctors were earning like 200, 250. But when he came, he increased it to 500,000 and give them brand new SUVs. It's not only politicians who are good to drive such vehicles. The essence of all this is to make them go to their work. You don't need to be in Abakaliki, the capital city, to deliver on those your responsibilities, health responsibilities. He also procured.
Sorry, before you go away from education, I can see some random rankings,
Yes.
On the internet now, talking about Ebonyi having the 4th best, good road network in Nigeria. Looking at the education space now, looking also at one or two others, it ranks Ebonyi quite well. 3rd ranked in climate change, according to the Ministry of the Environment. But when we look at education that you spoke to, as at last year, August, using data from the National Bureau of Statistics as well as UNICEF Education Fact Sheet last year, it rates Ebonyi State as 19th with a literacy rate of 77.76% among the most educated states in Nigeria. Perhaps the figures have changed over the past 1 year, but what are the critical challenges of the state government in educating its people? The dropout rate is very, very low, 15%. The out-of-school rate is also extremely low, it's at 7%. But what are the critical challenges that can help the government of the state sustain this success?
Yeah, I can tell you that, you can actually drag a horse to a river, but you can't force the horse to drink. Some of the people would want to do trades without going to school. So, and if government has provided platforms for them to have free education and people are not willing to, there's little you can do to force them to do that. But like you rightly said, the figures you had there were figures before he came on board the current administration. Before all these things are enumerated, they were not in place. In fact, at the point in time, even during COVID, some of the because you had to make sacrifice. Their salaries were cut 20%. And when this governor came, he paid them in arrears. So he's doing everything possible to encourage people to come to terms that education is very important in our society.
Okay.
Yeah.
My colleague in Abuja has questions for you. Go ahead, Malcolm.
Just a question, Ayo, and this is in the spirit of human security. I do know that Mr. Valentine has been involved in also trying to bring back girls who were trafficked to Ghana in the initiative of NIDCOM to bring them back. I don't know what it is that the state is doing to enlighten people, because I think that also dovetails directly into Ayo's question around education. What is the Ebonyi State government doing to try and educate people and enlighten people that there are people who will make all manner of promises about taking them abroad or taking them to, you know, other parts of the world, but they might not exactly mean well for them? I don't know whether that incident has sparked any advocacy campaigns in Ebonyi State.
Thank you, Makwe. The question is very germane. You mentioned the people that were brought from Ghana. When we did that, and the governor, you know, mandated that we rehabilitate them and make them human beings. We did that, pay for where they did apprenticeship. Some of them said they were not going to school, and the government paid every kobo for them, rented good houses for them. And some of them are done with the training, and government is setting them up in a few weeks now. And the good news is that some of them, when you jokingly say, will you want to go back? Say, no, I won't go back because it is hell over there. So the government of Ebonyi State, through the Office of Her Excellency, the governor, is doing quite well. Of course, you may have seen clips of the governor's wife traveling to Ghana herself to make sure that all these girls that are trafficked to Ghana, that it's stopped. So the Ministry of Education is also doing quite well too by enlightening the public through the some form of platforms like the PTA and other groups to educate their children and general public the dangers of living Abakaliki or living Nigeria in general to supposedly greener pasture. And most of them, when they get there, they get stranded. So I believe that the government of Ebonyi State and the government of Ahmed Bala Tinubu they are all doing quite well to see that all these things are abated.
It's back to Ayo.
Okay, you know, I'm looking at another figure, forgive me, because the questions that are raised here are not to criticize, but to draw attention to some things that the state government itself may not be seeing. For instance, look at the inflation figures right now. As at February this year, we have understanding that the CPI, that's the CPI, you know, consumer price index, reported that, you know, inflation, food inflation in Nigeria has been at quite an extent, and we understand that Ebonyi ranks 10th most expensive state in Nigeria to live as of February 2025. And of course, the report also says that inflationary pressures in Ebonyi may be stabilizing compared to other states. What needs to be done? Or what can the government do? Or what is the government doing to ease living standards in Ebonyi State so that we can attract more Ebonyians, as you call them, to come back home and develop the state?
Yeah, but I can tell you for sure that that figure is wrong because I don't know.
NBS figures.
I don't know how they got the data, but whether it's correct or not, let me say that if you talk about a few states that you can say they have food sufficiency, Ebonyi should be one of them, and we can feed ourselves, and we also export to other states. The challenge we have is that it can never go all around. It can never be enough. The government of the day has to plunge more funds to agriculture. And Ebonyi has very good lands. We produce a lot of sweet and good food, healthy foods. And if we have the funds and the right policies, which the government of Ebonyi State has done, investors will come to invest in agriculture.
Okay.
And one of the good things Ebonyi State has done through the House of Assembly for those who want to come and invest in agriculture is that there's a law that guarantees your safety, guarantees your investment. If for any reason you come to invest in Ebonyi and there's a mishap, so to say, you have the opportunity to recoup your money from the state government. So we have made everything to an extent very, very conducive for.
One last one. If you could make a call to people from Ebonyi State who are outside the state right now, what would be your call to them?
Of course, you know, I also am the focal person of Ebonyi in diaspora. I've engaged a lot of our people outside the shores of Nigeria. In August this year, we'll be having a conference in Abakaliki. All these things is to brainstorm to see how we can make Ebonyi State better.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I will believe that in no distant future you will be back here to tell us how well things have improved
anytime
after this conversation. Thank you so much. Valentin Okeke-Uzor is Commissioner for Special Duties and Diaspora in Ebonyi State. Again, thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
And that's the show this morning. Thanks for the privilege of being a part of your day. I'm Ayo Makine. Enjoy the rest of it.
Thank you. On the top of the hour is Business Morning. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf. Goodbye.